may take 10 years. It may take five, not because of luck, but because you played the assets over liabilities game. Tenants pay the bill, assets pay the lifestyle. If this has helped you, just oh, I got
That was good. Mic check. There we go. That's good. Alright, guys. Didn't know I could do that stuff. Learn a little bit each day. Alright, here we go. Wow. Okay, we need to adjust that. There we go. Alright. Live 16. Here we go. Get ready for it. Okay. Oh, you don't see me. There we go. It's cold, so I'm gonna stay wrapped up. Oh. Let me close the studio. Okay. Hi everyone. For those of you who do not know me, I am C. Taiga, CEO of the REI Ledger and author of the book Your Money Sign, second edition coming summer 2026. Go check it out. Thank you for joining me today. Whether you are watching this live on YouTube or listening in on the podcast, welcome. I host these lives every weekday morning starting at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I give about a 20-minute presentation and then at the end I'll do some Q&A. So do me a favor, drop your questions early. If I can't get to your question live, please join me afterwards in our Facebook group. I do check that every single day. Now before we dive into this episode, a quick heads up. Let me put that there because then you can huh. Yeah, that doesn't look good. Screw it, I'll have you guys see the Alright, before we dive into this episode, a quick heads up. I am sharing my perspective as a bookkeeping professional and financial analyst. This is for educational purposes. What you're about to hear is not legal or financial advice. The strategies we're discussing today are for motivation. This isn't formal legal or financial advice. For that, you do want to talk with your specific CPA or attorney. Every portfolio is unique, so please consult your personal tax or legal pro. We are here to talk shop and strategy, so let's get on with today's episode. Who are we and why are we going and doing all these lives? Well, we're the REI Ledger. We're a remote bookkeeping firm for real estate investors. LTR, STR, BRRRR, REIT. If you understood what I just said, then you're our people. Our mission is to close the gap of miscommunication within our industry. Hint, when you say equity, it is not what your bookkeeper means. We do work exclusively in QuickBooks Online. They do not sponsor today's video. That is just the software that we use. So to start off our mission today, let me introduce formally. I am CEO, and that awesome woman on the screen is my co-founder and CFO, Miss Tara Rea. We are both CDL Class A professional drivers with our tanker, hazmat, and doubles. What does that mean for you? It means we know how to kind of complicated numbers. It also means that we understand the vital importance of tracking the numbers, the paperwork, and having accurate calculations. Well, we both do love trucking, but after a work accident left me unable to truck, we launched a business combining our two passions, numbers and real estate investing. Thus, the REI Ledger was born on October 31st, 2025. So today we are talking about SREO. Most investors educate themselves on the investor side of it, which is smart. You have to know how to evaluate a property. But today I want you to understand a little bit of how other people look at you. So, in the world of real estate lending and syndication, the schedule of real estate owned is essentially a credit report that you make for yourself or that you make yourself for your bank. And when an investor like walks into a bank and you're asking for a $5 million loan, the lender doesn't just look at the specific property being financed. I think that is a huge miss out there where people are like, oh, it doesn't matter what your credit looks like. They just run the numbers off of your potential pro forma rent roll. Well, they look at the SREO to see if the investor is stable. Are you a stable pro or are you a ticking time bomb? Like, you just not understand the cluster mess you're about to put yourself into. So if you're just a beginner, you're a newbie, a lot of them will just bring in a sheet that has addresses. And sometimes they'll tell you what they paid for them. Now, a genuine quality SREO, remember that's a schedule of real estate owned, provides like a 360-degree view of the equity, but also the risk. Remember, you're not selling the top of the deal. You're selling the bottom of the deal. Okay, if the bottom of the deal isn't above a certain threshold, it doesn't matter what you say the top is, because they're gonna look at the bottom. So you're gonna need like 3 main categories for this. You're gonna want the property identity and ownership. So obviously you're going to want like the entity name. All lenders need to see which entity is holding which title. They need to understand what's going on. You can't just say 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street. Oh, okay, well, what entity holds it? Well, I control it. Okay, but what entity holds it? Do you have it under your personal name? Do you have it under an LLC named 123 Main Street? Do you have it under an LLC named Property Number 1 LLC? They need to know what legal entity is holding title to that property. And then they're going to also need to know ownership percentage. This is vital for investors who like partner or syndicate. A lot of times when you're doing especially a bigger deal, you can bring people in by saying, hey, when this all goes great, I will let you in on some of the profit. Can you help me out with some money up front? A lot of people will do that. That's syndication or partnership. Now, if they only own like 20% of the deal, the lender needs to know that they don't have access to 100% of the equity. See, when you go to the lender for that loan, the lender may or may not. What are you doing? Out of my face. Sorry about that. The lender may or may not go ahead with the deal because they need to know that they are not, in terms, in first position for that equity. The second thing you really need to do is valuation and performance. Performance. Past history. Current history. Not future telling. Not if this magical, wonderful thing were to happen, then this magical, wonderful result would happen. We would all love the magical, wonderful thing to happen every single time, but you cannot build something in reality with that mentality. So what do I mean by this? Well, first off, they want to know the acquisition price and date. It shows the vintage of the investment. How long has the current owner trying to sell it to you? How long have they owned it? Have they only had it for 20 days? Well, that could be a red flag. Why is somebody grabbing an asset and getting rid of it so quickly? Because if it was just a basic flip, they would be doing the handoff, so to speak, cleanly to where the wholesaler is not even on any of the paperwork if they know what they're doing, or double closing, but usually very quickly. So, like, well, same day, very quickly. And you can tell that when you're looking through the records. So they just need to know the vintage of the investment. They also need to know the current, let me say that again, current market value. This should be updated annually based on comps or cap rates. So let's just say you have 5 properties. You would have an SREO that stays active. Every single year, you should invest into that property as if you were going to sell it. Bring somebody in, see what they say for the market conditions, see what they say for, the appraisal, and really just have it ready with the current comps and the current cap rates, because that's what a banker's going to need. Remember, we're trying to get everything ready ahead of time before you need the capital. Remember, set yourself up to win when in need. Win. Now, that also means your gross market income, because you got to prove that the property is an asset, not a liability. So you really want all that for that second step of the valuation and performance. Now, the third part is your debt and leverage. These are the detail. These are, cleaning in between the cracks. So what does that mean? Well, the lender name and the loan balance. Show who else has a claim on the asset. That's the number one thing a bank's really going to ask is, hey, where am I in this? Where am I? What's my priority? Because if you're coming in here and you're going to somebody and saying, hey, I want you to overinvest in me and you're not going to be a priority to me, that's not going to work, people. That's just not going to work. You also need to have the maturity date. This is crucial. I cannot overstress this. If you have those 5 properties and you have 5 loans that are all due in a year's time, that is considered a financial risk. You must highlight it for the bank. You must tell them coming into it, it looks like a risk. I'm already aware you're going to find this a risk. Trust me, coming to the bank and telling them what the risks are is so much better than going in there with deliberately withheld information and then crossing your fingers and hoping they don't realize what's going on. I promise you. So, what are some of the things as a bookkeeper that I recommend you set up? Well, in this particular example, you are not just bookkeeping. You're not just saying, okay, this is what our profit and loss were for the last 3 years. This is what our balance sheet is for the last 3 years. You're actually kind of looking forward. You are by having this all prepared. You're saying, I know what the next step is for my portfolio. Maybe you have the 5 properties, and your next step is to actually try to get 2 properties at once, go from 5 to 7 within a 12-month time frame. That's an aggressive goal, especially if you're a newbie. So I want you to do kind of like a progressive or a proactive, like, debt management. That's kind of what we call it. So what do I say? The best visual I can think of would probably be a maturity heat map. If you notice like a balloon payment or a loan that's maturing in the 12 months, flag it. Like, lenders love seeing that investors prepared to refinance well in advance. Like, lenders want to know, hey, I'm going to still be important at the end of all of this. Like, your debts will get paid at the end of your deal. Because a lot of people blindly go in there, kicking the tires. Something seems to work because they found a desperate enough motivated seller, or they just happen to cross like little barriers and they get into it, and then they don't get out of it smoothly. It is not a clean breakup with the property. It is a lot, a whole lot. So I think what you need to do if you are going to do it yourself, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to teach people what we do. Obviously, if you're not going to do it yourself, hire a competent bookkeeper or a financial analyst, which is kind of more where I go. I'm a financial analyst who does bookkeeping. I'm not a bookkeeper who does financial analysis. But you're going to want to add a summary tab at the top of your report. Do not go in there thinking you are the most important thing this bank has ever seen and that they are desperate to have you. Don't go in there thinking that. Go in there, it's kind of like a first date. Don't go in there saying, I'm the prize, I'm the prize, I'm the prize. Anyone you're going to actually attract with that mentality is not a really good setup for success. You want to come up there with a very quick summary. Hey, this is my religion. This is my business. This is my goal in life. Kids, travel, financial desires, blah, 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 blah. Do you think we're a good fit? If you start an interaction with that quick little summary, the amount of time you save is amazing, and the ability to actually find a good fit increases incredibly. So start with the summary. And what are the main two things that they're going to want to know? Well, they're going to want to know your LTV, loan to value. How do you figure this out? You're going to take the total debt and divide it by the total market value. Lenders do usually want to see this under 75%. They want to see that there's some level of equity in that investment, because if the bank's left holding the bag at the end, the bank wants to know there's at least a possibility they can offload it, or that means resell it to somebody else. What is the second thing that you're going to want? DSCR. This is your debt service coverage ratio. They want to know how much of this property is being covered by the debt. It is the LTV, but with a different angle. The loan to value tells you how much equity is left in the property. The DSCR is going to kind of tell you tell the bank if the property can actually pay its bills. They want to know, because maybe you got into it at a 75%, but your DSCR shows there's no way you're going to pay any of your bills. So how do you make it? You take your net operating income, your NOI, and you divide it by your total debt service. If you can start off your summary with those two things, LTV and DSCR, you're going to start the conversation immediately. Now, remember, cleanliness equals credibility. Banks are very used to seeing a wide variety of people, and they're very quick to notice trends. It's just human nature. What does that mean? Well, that means if you even have an SREO, but it's a mess or it's majorly lacking information, they're going to assume that that's how you run your business. They're going to assume that your books are going to be that bad. If you don't communicate clearly with your bank, they're going to assume you don't clearly communicate with your contractors. And that's a potential that you're not going to get your fix and flip done correctly. By delivering a pixel perfect reconciled SREO by quarter, like I recommend by quarter, not by year, you are effectively pre-approving yourself for your next loan. You save them potentially weeks, especially if you're in a commercial, of back and forth with the underwriters. You are giving the underwriters everything they need to know. And don't make it personal. A lot of these places, especially if they're private money, they're going to make it to where their underwriter puts in these particular numbers and then it tells them yes or no. The whole point in business is to not make it personal. They are doing their best to not make it personal. So for each property on your SREO, so in this case we have 5, I want you to take it to a digital folder and have it together. You're going to have the report, but you're also going to want to include your closing statement, your appraisal, your insurance document page. And when a lender asks for the package, you can just send them a single link and you're going to look like a total pro. Wow, okay, amazing. If all you did was include the property identification and ownership, the valuation of performance, the debt and leverage with the key, the KPIs, the key indicators, LTV, DSCR, and you put it in a digital folder where you also put in your closing statement and your appraisal and your insurance page, you are going to immediately be taken more seriously. They are going to be like, oh, this person knows what they're doing. And let's just say you don't have 5 properties. Let's say you have no properties. Even if you made an empty shell of an SREO, create an empty shell. This is the financial analyst part of me. Remember, this is not financial advice. This is just my opinion. Let's say you want to get your first property and it's a duplex. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get into a duplex. Well, create an SREO for that duplex. Have it, and make sure you put in there. This is a projection. This is fictional. If you took over this property, here's what its SREO would look like. I promise you, in the world of finance, in the world of real estate, proving to somebody you already have the skills, even if you don't already have the property, is going to take you so far. It is absolutely going to put you forward and help you get a heads up above other people. You want to be taken seriously. There we go. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for sitting here, and thank you for taking your real estate seriously. It is my goal and my desire to educate more investors on the bookkeeping portion of the business and to educate bookkeepers on the investing portion of the business. I think there is a gigantic gap in the market, and I think of all the people that I have met, they're either, they pick their camp. They are bookkeepers and they only want to talk about the bookkeeping part of it to make it clean and simple and easy for them, but they leave out explaining to the investor, truly deeply explaining to investor why this is important. Or they're an investor and they just kind of see bookkeeping as a necessary evil, and it's kind of like a side note. Yeah, just put it in this category and then you're done with it. Don't think about it anymore. So I really want to bring both sides together and understand that it's necessary. It really is. It is necessary for an investor to understand why the books are important, but more importantly, which books are important. When you say, hey, I'm doing the books, what does that mean? You can do a lot of stuff with the books. And there's many different types of reports that you can make, that you can create. I'm trying to cover the ones that are going to be efficient, the ones that are going to help you move your business forward in a helpful amount of time, if that makes sense. So we are now going to move on to my personal favorite part of it. These are the questions that I've been asked. We don't have anybody joining us live in this moment. We really haven't promoted this channel yet. Still trying to figure out the best way to create a live interaction content. But we, we're still answering the questions that we have, and we are using each one of these kind of like a later gold mine to be able to turn them into little bits and pieces. We're going to take the best pieces of advice we can have, slap a disclaimer on it, of course, don't sue me, and get it out there. So that's kind of where we're at with this. So these are not live Q&As, but they are questions that I've had or been given. So let's do this. There we go. And that way we can take all of this out of here and I can get access. Okay, let's see here. Okay. What is the most unfair thing an investor can do to a bookkeeper? That is a really good question. I'm glad that we wrote that one down. The most unfair thing an investor, a real estate investor, can do to a bookkeeper is delay documentation. That is the most unfair thing. Because bookkeepers and financial analysts, we can't do anything without data. So if you are not giving us data, we can't do anything. I mean, it's like taking a fish and putting them on the side of the river and then wondering why they're flopping around and not swimming around. Well, fish need water to swim. They've got to have something to navigate. And that's what it's like for a bookkeeper and a financial analyst. Give us the documentation. This can look like digital. I once again, this is not sponsored by QuickBooks Online, but we do QuickBooks. You can go into QuickBooks and take a quick snapshot of your receipt. That would be helpful. We have, I don't recommend email. With my understanding of cybersecurity, you do not want everything over a bunch of Gmails. You do not want it. No Slack to Gmail whatsoever. I think Google is an amazing company and they are definitely leading in the cybersecurity areas as best they can. But even your best isn't always going to be 100%. Not to mention, when you go to either leave your bookkeeper or you go to audit, anytime you actually need access to the information needs to be put in a way where people can find it. Period. People need to be able to find it. There are different tools. Some are free, some are paid. There are different methods. There's a lot of different methods for it. So it's unfair of me, I get it, to say that the most unfair thing for you to do to us is to not give us the documentation, but then I don't give you the system of documentation. With a caveat, for our company, we have our system in place. We know what works for us. And if you are our client, we will tell you, we will share with you, we will set the boundaries nice and clear right from the beginning with the letter of intent, our letter of engagement. That's our service contract, basically. In the industry, it's called letter of engagement. I don't know why they don't call it a service contract, because that's what it is. But, everybody wants to feel special and everybody needs to have their own vocabulary, so I'm going with it. But yeah, that's the most unfair thing an investor can do to a bookkeeper, is to not give us the data that we need. We need data to give you results. Plain and simple. That's what's going to have to happen. That was a good question. How do you feel when you look at numbers that don't make sense? Oh, okay, this comes from our QuickBooks forum. Okay. I'm going to suggest that in this example, this is probably a real estate investor, not a bookkeeper. And they are probably doing their own books. Let's say they have 1 or 2 properties. And they're a little overwhelmed because the numbers aren't making sense in their own words. How do you feel? Well, how you feel will depend on your nervous system. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So we would use vocabulary such as frustrated, angry, overwhelmed, shutting down, sad. No matter how you feel, here is how you move forward. When the numbers are not making sense, take a mental break. It could be 30 seconds where you do some deep breathing. It could be shutting down for the rest of the day and saying, you know what, I'll come back to this tomorrow. It kind of depends on you and your time frame and what's important with the numbers. And like we said, hopefully you're doing all your numbers ahead of time. So it's not this last second, oh my God, I'm going to lose the deal if I don't get this done in 5 minutes. Please don't ever put yourself in that position. It's not a fun position to be on. Once you have taken a breath, once you have shown your nervous system there's no danger here, because remember, our brains are not primed for numbers. Our brains are not primed for business success. Our brains are only are only guessing, is my human in danger? That's all they're guessing. Is my human in danger? Your brain, little 2 pounds of fat inside of some bone, has no idea if your heart rate is elevating and your muscles are tensing because there is a predator about to eat you, or because there is an email from your boss. It doesn't know. So it's going to go, how would we survive this predator? Like, again, it just depends on how your nervous system is. Do we attack the predator? Do we get aggressive? Do we get defensive? Do we defend ourselves? Can we outrun this predator? Should we go ahead and run? Just get out of here, avoid the situation as much as possible. Can we camouflage ourselves? If we stay really still, maybe the predator doesn't see us. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Goats, the fainting goats, or the possums. Many different examples in the animal kingdom, where if you pretend to be dead, then the predator might lose interest in you. Great example if you have house cats. How many times has a cat, gone after a mouse, caught the mouse, and then the mouse just kind of stays still, and then the cat lets it go and is like, oh, well, you're not fun anymore. And they walk away and the mouse survives. That's what it means. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. In running numbers, whatever the numbers are, because they don't really specify a specific report. So whatever your numbers are, when you run them, understand that your brain is first going to say, is my human in danger? And if you're thinking, oh my gosh, if I don't get this loan, I can't get this property, your brain's going to go, yep, my human's in danger. Or if you're thinking, oh, I really hope this one works because I convinced, my siblings to go in with this, and if this doesn't work, my siblings are just going to be pissed off at me, and boop, my human's in danger. So if there's any sort of signal, my human's in danger, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Take a breath. Leave the situation mentally or physically if you need to for a short amount of time or a long amount of time. Doesn't matter. What matters is you've got to get that signal, my human's in danger, to quiet and hopefully actually go away. You need to keep reminding yourself, I'm not in danger. This is why the most efficient people I've seen with numbers, they're very detached. They're very logical. And all that means is that they don't engage their nervous system. They don't give a message to the numbers until they have the final number. It's okay to have fight, flight, freeze, or fawn at the final number. Will this property make money? Cool, I should move forward. This property isn't going to make me money. Okay, well, do I fight it? Do I try to change the numbers and make it to where it makes me money? Do I flight? Do I say, nope, we're done. We're not even going to negotiate it. The numbers just are way too far off. There's no way I'm going to make this deal work. Do you freeze? Do you say, maybe I need to take a moment and sleep on it? Or do you fawn? Do you go, oh, whatever, let's just do the deal because there's X, Y, and Z pressure, and fine, let's just do the deal. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Doing that, once you have the numbers, is much more beneficial than while you're getting to the number. Like the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, those four are only going to slow down running the numbers. And real estate is speed. Acquisitions, I should say, is speed. If you can acquire quickly, you're going to build a portfolio quickly, and you're going to have excess cash quickly, or you're going to dig yourself into a hole quickly. But real estate is quick. If you want results, it's about speed. So I would suggest that you get that message. My human's in danger. Calm it down. And it'll flare up again. Like, especially if you're new to it, it'll flare up again, and that's okay. You'll see a lot of times. I have this, which is a 1 minute timer. And when I say give me a minute, I will literally be like in an office, and I'll sit on the floor. I will put my body into a comfortable position, cross-legged lotus, and I will take 60 full deep breaths. 2 in count, 2 hold, 2 out count. And this will tell my body and my brain that I am okay. We're not going to worry about a predator, because I'm going to set this deal up so that there is no threat to me. And when I can put my brain and my nervous system into that spot, it works. It absolutely works. That's what I would suggest. Get yourself out of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and then run the numbers. This is another reason why I give quick checklists, and I'm a huge proponent of the green, yellow, red. I have that in my book, Your Money Sign, green, yellow, red, which is having a preset boundary with your partners, with your vendors, with your lenders, and having the conversation up front. Hey, here's the deal. What of this, there we go. What of this deal would make you say bye-bye? Now that's your red. You know you don't want to do that. So, okay, what of this deal would make you like hesitant? You're not sure you want to come meet my goal. That's yellow. And then you say, what of this deal, if I brought it to you, would you be like, oh yeah, there we go, we're good? That's your green. And now, as you go through this situation, when your green, yellow, red comes up, you have an understanding of what to do, what actions to take. And that's what I would do. Calm your nervous system, and then do your green, yellow, red. Just follow the plan, follow the numbers. How do you make a productive day when you have so much to do and everything is new and you can't afford to hire a staff? Really good question. It also depends on your personality. Which I know, it sucks, because majority of my answers are always going to be, it depends on your personality. It also depends on what is your definition of productive. So I would start there. Is your definition of productive, I ran around and I was in my head for 10 hours today, I was productive? Or is your definition, I moved 2 KPIs by 3% today, and I was able to do that in an hour and a half, and the rest of the day I relaxed, I took yoga classes, I walked the dog, and that is productive? What is your definition of productive? When I see a lot of people coming into something new, maybe they're experienced, maybe they're pros, but coming into a new venture, coming into a new project, something that's new to them, most people lack clarity. They don't know what the actual goal is. So the first part of that is, what is productive to you? You got to set your parameters. Because if your goal of being productive is releasing an online course within 3 months, now you're going to say, well, anything that's not focused around this course that I'm making isn't productive. I'm going to put that in second position. But let's say your idea of productive is bringing in 4 new clients, 4 new private money equity, 4 new bookkeeping clients, whatever. Bring in 4 more people into my business, maybe 4 business partners within 30 days. Well, that's a very different goal. Now, if your idea of productive is bringing in 4 new team members, you're not going to spend time on the course. You're not going to spend time 10 hours a day running around doing stuff focused on you. You would be, if you're going to be efficient, you would be taking the next 30 days to understand your future teammates' mindset. Where do they hang out? What do they want from this business? What can you offer as a founder of the business? So how do you stay productive when there's so much to do? I think the first thing is clarity. You have got to get clear on what you want. Big picture, little picture, micro picture. Big picture. What do you want in 20 years? What do you want in 20 years? Do you still want to be holding this property in 20 years? Do you want to be finding 4 new teammates that you are going to have by your side in 20 years? If you are, you're probably not wanting to recruit 4 new team members that are in their 60s, because they're probably not going to want to still be very active in your business in their 80s. Stuff like that. So gain clarity. That's the first thing to do. Gain clarity. And the second thing is to build systems. Build your systems. I could come in here and give you a beautifully polished system for your specific scenario, and I, because I do this for so many years, could probably get it to you in less than 5 minutes. And it would be detailed. I mean, it would be detailed, it would be get results, it would be efficient. But if the plan I gave you was not of your personality type, it was not something that you would actually follow through on, it's worthless. So you could say, pay me $4,000 for this entire program and not use it and say, oh my gosh, this person is just such a scam. That didn't work. Or I give you the exact same plan, you follow it to a T, and you get the results that were projected in there, and maybe even better because you added a little bit of your own flair, which you are better than me at being you. You always will be. So then you're like, wow, that's fantastic. That's the same mentality of any system. Do you do the sticky note system? Do you do the digital note system? Do you do the creating AI agents system? They said they don't have money to hire people, so do you do the free apprenticeship? There is a lot of people who will put out there to like college campuses or even high schoolers and say, hey, you want to add to your resume, want to build in this career field? I'm offering an unpaid internship for the next 90 days around this topic. You will learn, you will have resume experience. A lot of people will go for it. They will. There's a huge lack of humans actually involving other humans and how to be human. It is insane to me. But that would be my advice. Gain clarity. What is your definition of progress? And then build systems around that so that you can get yourself to that level of progress, whatever that level is that you want for yourself. Okay, here. Describe the condition of the perfect business layout. Nothing else to it, huh? I'm going to be honest, that's a bad question. That's a very bad question. I can't answer that question. Because what are the conditions? What is the layout? What is the end goal? How to structure a situation where you are doing fix and flip, even as just as something as doing your books for tax preparation, like very, very simple. One person has a fix and flip. Second person has a long-term hold rental on a 50-unit apartment complex. Third person has land that they're just holding because they think it'll appreciate in the path of progress. And then you have somebody who has multiple different types. They have Airbnbs and they have some rentals and they're doing a fix and flip. Well, each of those clients has an entirely different way that they should be setting up their books. They should have very different chart of accounts. They should be keeping track of revenue and depreciation very differently. They should be using their cost of goods sold, their COGS, in very different manners. So I guess this is a good point, though. I think it's a good question because we can make it a good question. Hold on a sec. Next time you're going to ask a question of anybody, even yourself, try to get curious and get specific. Describe the condition. Well, that's not on the person you're asking. You have to describe the condition. Saying, I inherited a house from my great aunt. It's in my personal name, and I want to fix it up really nice and then rent it out as an Airbnb. Is a very different condition from, I inherited this house from my great aunt and I want to live in it with my children and pass it along to my children in 20 years. Which is also very different from, I inherited this house from my great aunt. I want to bulldoze it and build a new 6-unit on there and then hold it for 4 years and sell it off. Starting condition, you inherited a house, but your exit plan, your hold to your exit, very different. You have to describe the condition, which goes back to the clarity thing. I need you to be clear on what is your condition. What are you doing as the investor to then be able to ask for advice? Because it goes back to your professional, your expert that you're asking. Well, they can't give you anything if you don't give them something to work with. In that particular example, let's say you don't know your plan. I can see that coming. I get that a lot. Like, I don't know what to do with it. What is the best thing to do with it? So in that situation where you don't know the plan, you should still know yourself. You should still have clarity for yourself. Going to, say, a financial analyst and saying, okay, look, I inherited this house from my aunt. I don't know what I want to do with it, but I do know here's my personality. I want to be hands off. I know that the city is saying that it has to either be up to code or torn down. Or I know my aunt redid her kitchen and bathroom only 2 years ago, so it's all up to code. Probably would only need a cosmetic fix. Those sorts of things. Give data, not vague hopes. Don't go in there saying, I want to make money from this property I inherited from my aunt. What should I do? There's lots of ways to make money from it. Lots of ways. Legal, illegal, more profitable, less profitable. You know, there's lots of ways. Like you just left it so wide open. Nobody can give you a quality answer. So I think it all, I guess today's theme is clarity. I need you to start understanding two areas, you and your goal. If you can only get those two areas, you'll do really well. Now, could you go a little further? Yeah, of course. You could have you, your goal, your team saying, hey, I've got a really great contractor and I know he's in between fix and flips right now. Well, if you come across a deal, you inherit a house from your aunt, maybe you put the contractor in there and fix it up. So it depends on what it is. It could be hey, I inherited this house from my great aunt and I am a school teacher making $40,000 a year. I do not want to put my life savings into it. I know I'm going to retire in 27 years. I'm not sure if I need to keep the house in the family because it's out of state or the repair of the house. Adding in that kind of data helps. Because now as an analyst, I can be like, okay, cool. There's no capital. That would be very different from, I'm an online influencer and my course makes me $8,000 a month and I've got $200,000 just sitting in there and I inherited this house from my great aunt and I thought, wow, this would make great YouTube content if I film fixing up the place. Okay, now you have a lot more to work with. That would be a completely different exit strategy, hold strategy than the teacher only making $40,000 a year who's not going to touch their life savings. So you have to be very clear on yourself. You have to be very clear on your exit. Everything in real estate has 3 steps: your acquisition, your hold, your exit. Before you ask advice from someone, even if it's just your spouse or your business partner, before you ask anyone's input, you need to know your own. At least have a vague understanding. Okay, coming into it, holding it, and leaving it. What do I want? What do I need? What can I bring? I know that coming into it, I can bring capital but not time. Or I can bring in time but not capital. During the hold, I know that it's a short-term rental, Airbnb. I'm, retired, and I know that it would be fun to interact with people and to go in and clean the house and to decorate it and make sure it's pretty and stock the fridge for my guests. That's very different from I'm super busy, I've got 2 kids at home, and I'm running an online business. I don't even want to see the Airbnb. I just want it taken care of. That's a very different plan. So I'm just going to be a broken record this morning, I guess. Clarity. I need you to have clarity. And once you have clarity, you can put in systems. When you have clarity and you have systems, you can start building something. You can start making amazing progress. Okay. I do have time for one more question. Let's see. I don't read all the questions because some of them either I'm not sure about or some of them just don't seem to be appropriate for this podcast. What is the last walkthrough of a property you've attended? And from a bookkeeping point of view, what do I need to be looking out for? Okay. Well, I just want to say that most people will never bring their bookkeeper to a property walkthrough. That we're not usually that heavily involved in the acquisition process. We are brought in after it has been acquired. So if your bookkeeper sees anything, they're going to see a receipt for whoever you paid to do the walkthrough and the inspections. They won't be there. That being said, you do see a trend. And as you see trends, then you could give advice. But even then, properties are different. Your business plan is different. What I will say from a bookkeeping financial analyst point of view, if you're doing a walkthrough of the property, stick to your numbers. If you know you can make the numbers work at 81%, don't go to 82. Yeah, I don't know how else to express all of that. When you're walking a property, you need to have the balance between listening to your experts and knowing what you're looking for yourself. Obviously, if you walk enough properties, you're going to start seeing patterns. You're going to. You want to know the numbers, but you have to know the numbers. I don't think I've ever been brought in as a bookkeeper to run the numbers beforehand. That would be more of the financial analyst side. And that's more of like your pro forma. That is, if everything happens, best case scenario, this is what we'll get. And if you're smart in your portfolio or pro forma, you will also add, and if everything goes wrong, this is how we'll exit and take care of it. So I think that's where we're going to end it for today. We don't have any comments in the live. Every single one of these lives afterwards, I do go into the Facebook group chat and talk about it. If you're a bookkeeper with a specific QuickBooks Online question, we can help you. Like I said, they don't sponsor this video, but that's what we work in. If you have questions about Xero or any of the other ones, or especially tax software, we cannot help you. That's not what we do. But if you're a real estate investor and have different money questions, different number questions, we can probably help you out a lot. So feel free to hop over there, join in the conversation. I hope you guys have a great day and a great weekend, TGIF. We will catch you next week. Y'all have a great one. Yes.